into your diet to help you feel more energy, support your digestion, and even take control of your weight. And you won't need a shovel. In fact, this is something you can do in your kitchen, and it only takes a few seconds.
My emotions. Oh my god. Who? What? Who?
By the 1940s, bush planes represented a vital link in isolated communities across Canada.
It's an essential service for most of the north, and there's always this temptation to load the airplane up. But at the same time, you have to get off the lake and you have to clear the trees at the end of the lake. So you have this conundrum: maximum payload, but you still want to get off and clear the trees.
Because if you find yourself a little low and the trees around the lake coming up fast, you want to be able to pull up and you can do that.
Last year. Maybe this year.
De Havilland embarked on an ambitious and extensive market research process, virtually unheard of at that time.
They were way ahead of their time when it came to marketing airplanes
and
making airplanes fit the market.
The Beaver was a lot of bush pilots' ideas put together of just what they would like to see, what would help them with their work in flying these airplanes. And remember, they had to make a living with them, and that was difficult.
Typewritten survey had to reach pilots working under extreme conditions in remote locations. The enthusiastic response from the bush pilots, and especially the dean of bush pilots, Punch Dickens, turned out to be a key ingredient for the Beaver's success.
Punch probably knew the North better than anyone else during the time that he spent.
It stressed me out because
he was one of those pilots who had to fly by the seat of his pants. When it was pointed out that this airplane was not going to be very fast, he said, all you have to do is be able to fly faster than a dog sled.
Ideas from some of Canada's greatest aviation heroes were incorporated into the design, customizing it for optimum bush performance.
With all the answers back from the pilots and all the encouragement to build this airplane, they went ahead. They really had their heart and soul.
There is a phenomenon known as beaver hunting, and Neil Aird is known to many as King Beaver. His early interest in the plane has become a lifelong passion, and now a full-time job.
I decided to do planes that were about the same age as I was. The Beaver was born, it was conceived probably in 1946, and they've gone off all over the world, and they've come back to Canada. I thought, well, this is Canadian, I'm a new Canadian.
Ours ended up in the desert. All of it ended up in the desert.
Trying to find out what happened to most
it was inside the house and the
try to have each one
represented.
It's detective work, and it's like the mother lode. You know, you're planning for gold, and suddenly there's a nugget.
Find his.
It's like a hunter.
And he found
You don't know if the quarry is going to be there or not.
Aird aims to create a virtual museum for all 1,692 beavers ever made. His website has fostered over 500,000 hits, and is headquarters for over 300 members from more than 100 countries.
I always say that even people who are not interested in airplanes can get a lot of pleasure from it, because each Beaver aircraft will be in a remarkable setting, be it Canadian bush, the Sahara Desert, the high arc, and people expect there to be a new Beaver every day. People in Romania, United Arab Emirates, something like 110 countries now people have been looking.
Neil tracks the lifespan and history of every beaver he can find, including Olivia.
She's very popular. There she is.
Serving in the Korean War, Olivia worked for the Texas Department of Agriculture before ending up at the Pima Air and Space Museum.
Yeah. It's
she's going to get a Canadian registration. Oh yeah, they're trying to get
somebody lurking in your bush.
C-O-D-H as Olivia.
It's much bigger than that. Much bigger than that.
Despite all of the advances in technology destined for Olivia, much of her work will be done by hand, just as de Havilland built them so many years before.
Okay, well, this is plan A to do it with a screwdriver. I'm not going to tell you what plan C is. And those are the easy ones. You should see these ones in here.
Olivia's wings and other components are removed so that she can fit onto a flatbed truck that will take her to Victoria, British Columbia.
Man, that seems so easy. We're going to raise the airplane, but because of the way the wind is blowing, we'll need Dave in the back to sort of hold it because it's more. It's not even that cold. This could get exciting. Exciting is good. Too exciting is not so good. And having the camera is even worse.
Wait, no.
Yell if you need help.
What? What?
Okay, Dave, we're moving.
Hoping that battery's not charged all the way. That's good enough. It's almost full.
I'm so nervous because I don't know. There's a killer in my yard.
In 1946, Ontario's Department of Lands and Forests recognized the need to replace their fleet of cloth bush planes.
That's what I found out.
They pitted two of Canada's leading plane builders against each other. De Havilland's Beaver versus Fairchild's Husky. The race was on.
Both the design of the Husky and the Beaver were quite innovative for their day.
They had to keep it highly aerodynamic, and they had to keep it small. The company was at stake.
Trying to secure it out so it ends up back home in one piece. It's not all over the road. It'll be fine.
What's up, Motorhead? You got a Motorhead, right?
Yeah.
Olivia begins a long trip from Tucson, Arizona to Victoria, British Columbia. It's the first step in an extraordinary transformation.
To me, it was really.
Lay down.
Your airplane. You got in there.
Lay down, whatever.
It was so nice.
The Beaver is unique in my experience for an aircraft of that size. It's incredibly well balanced and light on the controls. You really can't fly it with two fingers.
And pilots will tell you that the reason they love the Beaver is that it has an excessive power.
I don't know. It's just it's a magical experience.
Fun.
This is an airplane that grew organically out of a need for an aircraft that could go into unimproved strips, land on roads, beaches, carry a hell of a load, and take a fair amount of abuse.
What, baby? What?
The long journey from the Arizona desert to the Pacific coast is over. The restoration of the former military Beaver Olivia is just beginning. After 30 years of service and 20 more lying forgotten in the desert, her next flight will be as a brand new airplane. Back in 1946, the Beaver's designers at de Havilland had to answer a number of critical questions before a prototype plane could be built.
Because de Havilland was an English company, they originally conceived of this aircraft as being powered by an English engine.
The plane, as it looked, was going to be underpowered. And that was a complaint with all Bush aircraft. They were all underpowered.
Their solution was to devise a huge wing to compensate for the underpowered engine.
I was in Montreal with Phil Garrett, a managing director, and we were having drinks and some dinner with the chairman of Pratt & Whitney Canada. And he said, why don't you put the Wasp Junior into the Beaver? There are lots of these surplus engines around, and it will give you more power.
The Pratt & Whitney Wasp Junior R985 engine was first designed in 1928. It was strong enough and provided even more power than the design now required. The unmistakable sound of the classic rotary engine was recognized the world over.
Oh, well, there's nothing in the world that sounds quite like that engine. And it's got a distinctive voice, one that's easily recognized.
A lot of people use the analogy that it sounds like a Harley Davidson, and it does. It's music to most people that hear it. Even the pilots that have become deaf listening to it They love that sound.
They're a noisy airplane, but round engines are music, as far as I'm concerned.
To me, and to many people, it's like hearing a loon on a lake. If I hear a beaver taking off, no matter where it is, my ears will perk up. I mean, this engine's 1928 technology. And here we are, you know, in the 21st century, still driving a merrily.
Sometimes they're time capsules. Hartford Army Typical Manual. Hartford the Army, 1965.
All the weathered and worn parts of the old Olivia are shed to make way for her modern makeover. The team at Viking is determined. They want her airborne in time for the 60th anniversary of the test flight in 1947. The first Beaver to ever be flown was air tested by 2 pilots.
George Neal and Russ Bannett. This is a big thrill of me to have them on the website.
Here's George.
Hey,
George, nice to see you. In familiar ground.
Russ came from the Air Force. He was flying mosquitoes overseas during the war. And he came over out of the Air Force and right into the civvy job. And that's where they had the Beaver when they rolled it out for you to fly.
Yeah, that's right.
The competition was already well into prototype test flying. The manufacturing team at de Havilland had to work fast, and the clock was ticking.
So I waited until they called me to come down and fly the airplane. There were a number of the engineering people and staff here watching. So I simply piled into the airplane and got the engine started and taxied out onto the runway. And after I was satisfied that the controls were all working fine, I actually took off. We had a problem on the first flight.
I was eating because I was stressed out, candy bars and chips and donuts, gaining weight. But since I started Noom, I've lost 70 pounds before I went on Noom. I didn't like how I looked. I couldn't even see my feet. I used diet programs in the past that required you to use their food. The problem is once you stop using their food, you gain the weight back. What was holding me back was really understanding what I was
You could go out first so I can make sure this dog don't get out.
Broke my back and I had to find a new career. 2.5 months ago, I kind of stumbled across Noom and it changed my life. I'm down to 171.4 pounds and not going back up.
I work out every day for a year and just lost 10 pounds. I've been doing Noom and I've already lost 14 pounds.
But you don't just lose weight to keep the weight off.
You gonna take Powderhead or? You want me to bring him to you?
Where is it?
Right here.
This year has been extremely challenging for me.
No, you come here. You gotta stop it. Lay down.
And I am healing.
I'm here at the memorial wall because I wanted to do something to remember my mom.
For some reason, I'm having anxiety. Obviously, it's normal with everything that's going on right now.
I think I'm going to take a break for a while.
Come here.
You can get through it, and if you can get through it, there's a greater reward on the other side.
Come here.
Just like anybody else, I'm just trying to do my little part to try and save my community.
I'm just really excited we're back open.
And I am smiling under my mask.
Incredible scenes of the
You guys, it's been so long.
You're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just like, there I am.
Be your best. Never, ever, ever stop dreaming. I don't care what they do.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, find the defendant guilty.
drowning. We are fighting.
We cannot keep quiet about climate injustice. No action.
Will you guys move?
We just have to band together as a community and get people's lives back.
Even as we grieve, we will, that even as we hurt, we hope that even as we tire, we try that we'll forever be tied together, victorious.
Checking all the instruments and noticed that the oil pressure was going down fairly rapidly. When it was getting close to zero, I realized I better land. There was something wrong, so I simply throttled right back and did a glide approach and landing. When they drained the oil out after doing engine runs in the morning, there was an unreturned valve in the drain that was put in backwards. And so 20 odd minutes it siphoned the oil out. And unfortunately I had shut the engine down so it didn't do any damage.
Taken off in a little plane with a oil scavenge pump installed upside down. You know, you wonder, these guys hadn't done a lot of this sort of stuff.
And 2 hours later, I came down and jumped in the airplane and took off again. This time I stayed in the air pretty close to an hour. I was really quite pleased with the way it handled on that particular flight. It jumped right off the runway and landing, you make an approach at 75 miles an hour, and it's touched down, and I could have stopped in less than 100 yards. So that confirmed that it was going to be a real STOL airplane, short takeoff and landing.
The Beaver would prove itself to be the first aircraft with short takeoff and landing capabilities, and some would say the best, even to this day.
We didn't have any backlog of orders. It was only a prototype.
Bruce checked me out in the Beaver, the land plane, of course, and then he turned it over to me when we wanted to do the float work. You could just feel that airplane leap into the air, and it did. It just leaped into the air. Well, then when I got it down on floats, we got airborne in about 10, 11 seconds. So that was just out of this world. And it'll always be known as the first fantastic airplane with STOL operation out of it. It was so advanced, it's just fantastic. There wasn't anything to touch it.
Despite the apparent advantage of the Beaver, people tested the Husky.
The Husky's larger capacity made more demands on the Wasp Junior engine than the smaller design of the Beaver. Favor soon turned to the plane with superior performance.
You could tell, as soon as you compared the two of them, that the Husky was going to use all the power that engine could produce. And the Beaver was not. And it really was as simple as that.
And it wasn't too long after we got into prototype flying that we got an order for 6 Beavers from the Ontario Department of Lands and Forests.
The Husky was defeated, and in the end, only 12 were ever produced. News of the Beaver's performance spread rapidly across the country. But in order for the Beaver to become a commercial success, de Havilland had to achieve sales beyond the needs of the Ontario government.
But you like fire. It is a remarkably useful airplane. Obviously, it's meant to be heavily loaded and taken in and out of short, unimproved strips. There's still a lot of use for it.
Over the years, it has developed into the finest float plane that's ever built.
Former surplus Army Beaver, Olivia, is almost halfway through being rebuilt into a state-of-the-art bush plane.
The bulkhead looks like a toilet seat. We always call it the toilet seat here. Basically, you see is I reskinned it all, made it look real nice and pretty. And it's coming along.
One of the most crucial structural elements is the support frame of the engine, known as the bird cage.
So this bird cage actually came from this beaver when it came in. We sent it for NDT, non-destructive testing. He did ultrasonic testing on it, checked out all the tube thicknesses, made sure there's no corrosion inside. It actually turned out one of the best we've ever found. This thing was like brand new inside. So living in the Arizona desert is a good thing for these plants.
Sales of Beaver aircraft were not significant in the early days. De Havilland couldn't sustain more than 1 or 2 aircraft a month. The 11th Search and Rescue Squadron in Alaska advertised that they were looking for a bush plane that they could operate on floats, in and out of rivers and small lakes.
So I planned a trip to Alaska. After showing it to Colonel Balkan and some of his staff, he asked if we could take them fishing to some particular spot where they had difficulty getting into. They'd have to drive in with a Jeep for about 20 or 30 miles.
The performance of the Havilland Skull aircraft was so much superior to other aircraft of its date that it was essential to show the customer what the aircraft could do. Test pilots really played the role of salespeople. They were really very much showmen in their era.
I think I took about 5 people into this lake. It really was a river. When I landed on this river, it wasn't very deep. It was kind of winding.
He didn't know when he'd landed them on this creek, basically. He didn't know that he was going to be able to take off from there. While the brass were fishing, he was pounding stakes at the minimum distance before he had to, change direction in taking off. He had to change direction several times to do that. And that impressed me. That really impressed them because the load was heavier. They caught a lot of fish. Everybody had a good time, but they were astounded by what the airplane could do.
Cessna had sent up a Cessna 195 to try to get this business. The two of us lined up and we took off side by side, and I think I was airborne and 300 feet in the air when the Cessna was still on the water.
For the U.S. military to order a foreign-built aircraft, the Beaver would have to prove itself against the best America had to offer.
The Beaver beat the competing aircraft hands down, and the political obstacles that may have existed soon disappeared.
Not only did the Beaver win the day against stiff U.S. competition, but de Havilland secured the purchase of an impressive 973 Beavers.
It was unprecedented. First of all, no Canadian company has ever done that before or since. That's 1,000 airplanes.
Beaver orders and production soared to 20-30 aircraft a month. When you look at Canadian-built aircraft, the Beaver today still holds the rank as the most produced aircraft. No other aircraft comes close. Now, the Beaver happened to cut its teeth in Korea. It was known as the General's Jeep. They did a lot of things like string wire, communication wire, across valleys, transport wounded soldiers to and from the field, act as indeed, the Jeep for General Eisenhower when he went touring.
Well, the Beaver was a tremendous aircraft for us out in the field. And once a pilot got checked out in it, it was like putting on your own coat. You were that comfortable with it. We were all attached to it and still are.
A man who flew this aircraft in Vietnam and other places during the Vietnam War flew this aircraft for Air America, which of course is the unofficial airline of the CIA.
For whatever reason, they put a patch in there. Maybe there was a dent there or a hole there or something. But it doesn't look very pretty, so we'll get rid of it.
There aren't too many of the original skins left in the airplane, because sometimes it's quicker to replace a whole skin panel than to repair a damaged part on it. And this way you get a brand new panel.
The Viking crew hurries to have Olivia completed in time to attend the anniversary of the Beaver's 6 decades of service.
Hey, Jeannie. It looks like they like the scheme.
She's like a desert queen that's being resurrected. I mean, she spent 20 years in a museum, and I don't think they ever thought she'd fly again, and she's going to fly again. My job as the mechanical cosmetician is to turn her into this.
Today, maintaining and restoring existing beaver planes is the only way to meet market demand. But in the 50s and 60s, de Havilland, Canada saw an ever-increasing stream of customers for beavers, spurred by the large sale to the U.S. Army.
We sold almost 1,000 beavers. The fact that you sell beavers in that number to the U.S. military makes it attractive to commercial people around the world. If the American Army think it's so good, maybe we should have a look at it. It allowed the sale of a lot of other commercial airplanes.
Where we went, we seemed to sell airplanes.
We sold beavers to other air forces, like the Austrian Air Force, the Dutch Air Force.
The British Army had 46 Beaver aircraft delivered, and they flew in just about every part of the world. And we had them in service for 27 years until 1989. This is an illustration of our last Beaver. It's still flying in military regulation colours. It's still flying on the British military register. And we've had it as part of our historic aircraft flight now since 1990. And it's very much a display draw. People come to look at this airplane because of its history in the British Army. But we've operated the aircraft across the globe. Sometimes some of the operations the Beavers went into in wars in the Middle East or in the Far East, right down in the dirt next to the soldiers who are actually doing the fighting, resupplying them, casualty evacuation. You can always rely on the Beaver. And I think actually most of us are disappointed it's no longer in service.
Kelly did excellent body work to her, so all her cellulite's gone, so she's nice and smooth. And why that's so important to me, Olivia's gonna get a de Havilland symbol. It'll have an airplane in the middle, and it'll be the same colors, contrasting colors as her stripes. So it'll be red and gold, and that will look really cool because her tail will be very flashy. And that's very important on a nice lady.
Nothing's ever been built that does what the Beaver does today.
Absolutely immortal in British Army service.
It will go on for many years to come. That's what's current history, living history.
Beaver planes have not been produced since 1967, yet they are still highly sought after as the definitive bush plane. The $1 million restoration of Olivia is easily justified. In the mid-60s, aviation technology was advancing fast. New turbine engines opened up the industry for faster, quieter travel. De Havilland, Canada modified the original piston engine Beaver design to incorporate the new technology, giving the Beaver an even higher rate of climb, greater altitude, and the ability to carry heavier payloads.
What was the reasoning behind stopping the Turbo Beaver production at 60?
This was a character named Ted Emmert, who was became chairman of Hawker Siddeley Canada, which had taken over de Havilland. And he had the idea that we should get out of these small airplanes and get into bigger airplanes. And he just directed that production be stopped, which was kind of stupid. But if somebody could actually put the Turbo Beaver back in production, there'd be a market for it.
After only 60 turbos were made, de Havilland began to shift its focus towards larger airliners. Despite the increasing popularity of the Beaver, the entire line was shut down, and production ended in 1967.
And you see I've got the crew, Brian and James, building up the brand new PT6-34 engine. All the sheet metal aspects of the conversion has been completed, so this is a milestone for the Turbo Beaver project.
It's just so easy to damage it up. You know, you got 3 or 4 people putting the engine in, and if you ding the side of the engine case, the engine has to be shipped back to an overhaul facility to be repaired. But the problem here is that we don't have any extra time to put the airplane together. We just can't afford to have anything like that happen. They're hoping we're going to have the airplane completed before they go to the show. It's going to be pretty close. You never know if the airplane's going to teach you a little lesson right at the very end. You know, as long as we concentrate on what we're doing, I think we'll be okay.
After more than 50 years, the demand for the Beaver remains.
Because they're not manufactured anymore, the fleet is technically getting smaller. The value of the aircraft is such that you can do it economically by rebuilding an airplane.
Can you ask him to stop hammering for like 20 minutes?
Our airplane embodies conversions and upgrades from other companies too that we've certified for use on the Turbo Beaver and on the Piston Beaver. And, you know, so I think it's an industry effort. It's unbelievable, the industry that is developed around a product that hasn't been in production for, 40 years.
Well, a great airplane doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of things that can be done to it to make it even greater. For instance, this one has an AOG stole kit, which is a leading edge cuff, drooped wingtips, and a reset of the wing angle, which makes the plane fly flatter. It goes a little faster and lands a little slower.
Open, you can put an ATV inside this airplane. You can put practically anything. If you could fit an elephant through the door, you could fly with it. It's quite incredible.
The aircraft has evolved and adapted with the generations to perform many more modern roles.
When I first came to Kenmore Air Harbor, we had one de Havilland Beaver. Every pilot was jealous of whoever wasn't flying it, And so pretty soon we got another airplane, and then another airplane. Since we were operating the airplanes ourselves, we would find that the airplane itself had a few shortcomings.
Kenmore Air was the next company to modify the design with new ideas and modern technology.
We were able to develop different modifications for the airplane. We were the very first ones to do these modifications. We put a steering system, so now we have steering improvement, and that made the pilots very happy. Where the original steps were round steel tubes with 3 people sitting across, the largest part of your body is the shoulders, and so the shoulder sticks out right into this area where the flat window was, and now it's a bubble.
Just about every Beaver seaplane flying in the world now, I think, has one or two or several of the Kenmore modifications. So it's kind of fun to see how it's been accepted around the world in the Beaver market.
A lot of the little things that Kenmore pioneered are part of the package on this airplane.
Near the end of the Vietnam War, the helicopter was quickly becoming the aircraft of choice for Army operations. The surviving Beavers were made surplus.
That was the beginning of our Beaver rebuild program. 40 years later, now I think over 130 Beavers have come through our shop and rebuilt and so forth. It's quite exciting to have seen the condition a lot of these military surplus planes came in, mothballed, haven't flown for years, to the final rebuild. It's quite amazing to see that. One of our big markets was refurbishing the Beavers and selling them to Alaska operators.
Kenmore Air is one of the largest and busiest Beaver operators in America. It's here that Harrison Ford's Beaver was rebuilt.
I visited quite a few times while Kenmore were putting the airplane together, and it was everything I hoped it would be.
I think it was one of the military fuselages still here that we were able to rebuild for him and fixed him up with a nice airplane that seems to be real happy flying it all around the country.
Flying a low level across this country and get to see not just the great natural beauty of the country and the scope of it, but that's of the history of the country, the way it grew up. Sort of taking on new challenges, like short strips and crosswind and tailwheel airplanes, and that's beautiful. 8,500 feet over Briley, Idaho. Not a bad way to spend the afternoon.
After much anticipation, Olivia's airframe is seeing engine power for the first time in decades.
It's nice to hear that sound of that engine running, and especially when everything's working like that. You know, we breathed some new life into it today. I think it's going to be a battle right to the end to see if we can finish on time or not.
This aircraft harkens back to the time when airplanes were much simpler machines than they are now.
What are you doing? Rocky! Rocky, what are you doing? I can't fly this thing!
I guess part of the simplicity results in a feel and a contact with the airplane that you don't have, perhaps with some other more complex airplanes.
Although no new Beavers have been made since de Havilland stopped production in 1967, they are still much in demand. Prospective buyers have to hunt down, rescue, and restore old surplus planes like Olivia.
Floats are on, the engine's on, the tail's on, and once we get the wings on, we can finish rigging the flight controls. So, yeah, I mean, there's only, a week till they want to depart, so there's not much time left.
With few remaining days left until takeoff, Olivia is in final assembly. Her second maiden voyage will see her return to that very hangar she was built in over half a century ago.
You can see we've got the wings on Olivia, and it doesn't even look close to the airplane that I went down and took apart in Arizona. It's like basically like a moth turned into a butterfly, so to speak. First time it's been flying in 30 years, and we're all looking forward to it. And Dave Curtis over here is actually really looking forward to it because it's his baby. And actually what you see here is a total of about 5,900 man hours. And it's quite a bit because we had to do a lot of work. Been sitting in the desert for 30 years. And in a few more minutes, go flying. Make sure we don't do any hanger rash on it.
Olivia is transformed into a high-tech marvel, ready to cross the country in honor of the Beaver's 60th year in service.
The plane was found in the Arizona desert. We fell in love with it. It had a name, Olivia.
Olivia de Havilland, movie star.
Perhaps, yes. Very excited to be able to take this airplane to Toronto to the show. Perform beautifully on the test flight. It's like a new airplane.
After only 1.8 hours of test flying, Viking Air's chief pilot, Don Behrens, begins the 4,500-kilometer trip across the country.
What do you suppose it is? Sounds like right over the belly. There it is. There it is. I get it. Oh, isn't it pretty?
Restored military Beaver, Olivia, crosses Canada's vast expanse with just days remaining before the 60th anniversary celebrations are set to begin in Ontario.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
You reckon? They're just off of Nelson 2 minutes ago, and we're eastbound. The flight plan can activate if it's not already.
She's flying higher, faster, and farther between stops than she ever has before.
So here we are in Sault Ste. Marie. We're within a couple hours of Downsview, her birthplace. Well, there was a couple of instances along the way where the weather was a little on the sketchy side, but we managed to make it through.
Oscar Delta Hotel, turn in final landing Downsview. Show is going to be.
proceed straight to the end of runway 33, exit to your left.
Okay, check that. Thanks. See it now.
Olivia now finds herself back on the very tarmac from which she first took flight.
While we certainly purchased all the rights to the airplanes, I look at it more like we're the stewards. I hope to be here in 40 years on a panel, you know.
The Beaver's original test pilot, Russ Bannock, flew to the event in his son Michael's own Turbo Beaver, and now meet the newest restored Beaver for the first time.
You know, my daughter's name is Olivia.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
Olivia de Havilland.
And you saw the registration?
Yes, I did.
She was here.
Olivia de Havilland, I met her.
Yeah, my mother still talks about this. Do you have a number in mind of beavers you thought you'd sell?
Yeah, we know, sure. We thought we'd sell a couple of hundred beavers. You know, with a bit of luck, we might sell 400 or 500. We never ever thought we'd sell almost 2,000. Why is the piston beaver floats selling for $500,000 when it originally sold for $30,000 with floats? And that's because there's nothing to replace it. You know, that's right.
Modern beavers are still being used every day for agricultural and surveying work, and by commercial operators, commuters, and tourists across the globe.
One of the things I like best about flying, I guess, is that when I'm up here, I'm another pilot, another airplane, not a movie actor. First tailwheel airplane I flew was the de Havilland Beaver. I'd never really seen one up close. Very impressive airplane.
It spreads over so many years, and it's not finished yet. The Beaver, well, they call it the immortal Beaver, it is.
I never really thought that when I did the first flight 60 years ago, they would still be flying off of this same runway, same airfield, in a Turbo Beaver 60 years later.
The original test pilot, Russ Bannock, takes off from the very same runway that the Beaver first flew from, some 60 years before.
There to go. We're there to go.
What was the actual date you did the first flight? August 16th, 1947.
It's just something that burns its way into your psyche. It's a beautiful thing.
Makes me happy to get in it. That's all I can say.
Hey there. Now's as good of a time as any to introduce this flight. Check this out, flying at a little bit different place. Isn't this beautiful? So where are we? Got any guesses? In many ways, this is the real birthplace and incubator of soaring in Utah. I'm embarrassed to say I've been flying Utah for 21 years, maybe 22, one of the two. And I've only landed here once, but I've never flown out of here. And so it was actually my wife's suggestion. I thought it was a great idea. So I am in Heber, Utah. And some of my videos fly over this is the backside right here. And we're just east of Provo in this beautiful little valley. That's gorgeous. So you can see I'm walking my glider to where we take off. Golf cart's gonna come get me. They prefer not to have too many cars running around the airport. This is an interesting airport, much busier. Check this out. As you can see, hardcore firefighting operations going on here. There's a fire about 10 miles to the east of here that they're controlling. There's a Chinook on the other side of the airport that way. So anyway, pretty fun stuff. So I see the golf cart's coming to get me, so I'll just stop here. But excited to fly. So out in that direction are the High Uinta Mountains. Just on the other side of those hills, there's another valley and the High Uintas. And so I'm going to go play there. But I mean, look at this. Look at how good that cloud is, and that cloud, and that, and that. But then it gets even better over there, and look at all that. So really, really fun. This is kind of the northeastern tasking area of Nephi. And so we don't get up here as much. So it'll be a lot of fun to kind of explore this area. I'm planning on flying here over the next month and a half. Just kind of enjoy it. So golf cart's coming to get me. Glider's ready to launch. Gonna be flying dry today. And let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can have some fun. And if the battery lasts, maybe we get another full video. Thanks. Here we go. Boy, was that a sweet takeoff or what? What a great place. Yay, I'm flying out of Heber. Straight ahead. Straight ahead. Straight ahead. Off to the right. Then I can do a 180. Gear is up. The one with the roof on it? I'm 1,000 feet. This right here is Deer Creek Reservoir, and I'm hoping to fly or boat on it tomorrow with the family. It'd be fun to see other gliders launch as we're boating. It's a fun lake. I think that the camera is just slightly too far forward. So once I get off of tow, I will mess with it. I'm not going to mess with it on tow. That would be a distraction, don't need. Off tow. Well, darn it. I need to at least go best L over D. I'm going too slow. There we go. This is what I was looking for. Sorry, I'm paying attention. Normally you get off a little bit higher here, but those other guys have gotten off at about 2 and they got right up. And, I had to find the second thermal. Obviously, it's just fine. I'm going to center just a little bit more and then I'll adjust that camera. Well, my last glider video was up in Logan flying the Tetons, which was fun. I didn't like how my hat and my face was obscuring too much. Sorry about that. So I don't want the camera too far back, but let's get you as much of a view as possible. So again, I'm dry, so what I'm wanting to do is to keep my thermaling speed somewhere between 52, 55 kind of a thing. Knots indicated. Alright, let's mess with this. Just a little bit. There we go. I led with the rudder a little bit too much on that one. Okay, let's see where recenter this thermal. There's the high Uintas. Cannot wait to go play over there. So you can actually see on this trace, thermal's really narrow. Center just for a second. Oh, how beautiful. What a beautiful soaring location. And I picked a good day too. So the wind right now is reading only 7 or 8 knots from the west. Switch to 123. Bravo 4 is on frequency. All right, so I'm now 9,000 feet. This wasn't the greatest of thermals, so I'm going to now cruise just this direction, see if I can get stronger. I see glider way up there. Funny, John, I said I never flying flat number 4 except for takeoff, except for right now. I put it in 4 and thought of you. That was a fun conversation the other night, chatting about the flap settings. All right, see, this is a much better thermal. One of the things I'm going to do is change my McCready setting. Right now I've got it set to 0. Put it to 4. Currently at 5.5. So one of the things that I haven't been good at, it's too bad you can't see the screen. You can't see it very well. This screen you can see a lot better. This right here is my Vario average. So right now my average for the last 20 seconds is 6.3 knots. And the one above it is my thermal before, which was 3.5 knots. So if that makes sense. And then this one says the altitude that I've gained in this thermal. And then the one below it is my G load. So I'm pulling, 1.5 Gs right now in this turn. 1.6, 1.7 Gs. So I'm showing you I got a little bit out of center. Should be a little bit better. Oh, this is great. Woo! How fun and how beautiful. How beautiful. So up going this way just a little bit, see if we can get back to that 6 average. You can see it's just little micro adjustments, really only going straight, coming out of the bank to turn and going straight for just 1 or 2 seconds. Then you're right back in. Because if you think about it, I'm going, the equivalent of about 65 miles an hour over the ground. So 1 second going that fast, you're going to cover some pretty significant area. And the thermals, especially a narrow thermal like today, you can quickly just get out of the thermal completely. So micro adjustments. Kilo 4, Bravo 4, just climbing through 11,000. Thinking about heading over to the Hayuentas once I get high enough. What's your status? Kilo 4, say again? Cool. So there's a beep every once in a while that a couple people have asked me about. And what that's saying is, hey dummy, you should straighten out for just a second and it'll be stronger. So it should probably beep right about now. And see, then I just straighten out for a second and I'm back. See, look. Bravo 4, I've landed there. It's good. Landed there in power. Oh, it feels strong. See, beep. So it wanted me to straighten out for a second. I don't always follow it. I probably should, subconsciously. But let's just see what happens. Usually if it beeps twice in the same part of the circle, then I'll be like, okay, come on, wake up. It's trying to tell me something. See it beep? And you know what? I can feel it stronger. See how that was a good help? So it was my D7, which they now call, I think, like the S8 or something. That's the instrument that was doing it. So I'm now climbing through 13,000, trying to throw on the oxygen. So the regulations are, if you're above 12,500 for more than 30 minutes, or if you're above 14,000, and we're going to go straight up to the stratosphere. Oftentimes I put this on before launching. I was in a little bit of a hurry. So you notice you can actually still thermal with just your rotor pedals. Don't need no stinking ailerons. Takes lots of tough rudder though to not fall over, fall off to the side. turn on my Mountain High system. Again, what that is this cool little box that senses your pressure and the negative pressure when you breathe in, and that just sends a little pulse of air based on how high you are. And so obviously the higher you go, the more air that it sends. All right, Utah Lake is over there. That's kind of Provo area. If I were to go straight, that's Mount Nebo on the horizon. There's the ski resorts in front of me. Brighton and Alta, Park City. Great thermal. Papa Sierra, you've been keeping the secret all to yourself. Why didn't you tell us the thermals were like this up here? Oh, this is great. Climbing through 13.4. Almost 900 feet per minute. See, look at this. I'm pulling almost 2 Gs. Oh, this is so great.
Watch out.
16,000.
Move. Huh? Yeah. Don't do that.
Who's hiding? Who's manipulating? I saw you. I don't know what she's hiding. She manipulates me. She's demon.
Don't pay attention to what
I do get to at least have one piece of that pumpkin pie, right? Not right at this moment, but yeah. You guys go lay down.
Again, there's the backside of Mount Timpanogos, which I've had some really fun flights.
You could have it here.
No, I just want a piece. That's what I'm saying.
The whole thing. It's because I didn't think you wanted anything. I didn't think you wanted something because usually you like pick out the meat.
Yeah, it looks like I'm 500 feet below.
And so like, okay.
Time to exit.
And it's nothing like indoctrinated. Or you indoctrinated me. He's indoctrinated.
Again, my keyboard mouse is on my left hand. Which is also where my trim is. So I'm often messing with that and you can't even see.
What do you put these on? You want to 90 feet.
I just don't know what's wrong with haters.
get some air in here.
Only good things here. What can I do?
It's 29 degrees outside.
Where should I go tonight? I need a vacuum really bad. Who said country? Like if you only good deeds here. No bad deeds.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, say again. All right, Bravo 4 is just to the north of that Virga that's falling, just to the west of Camas.
You can have the whole pie. You can have the whole pie. I
don't want it. The whole thing.
I don't want you to go without eating.
You are starting to get on my nerves.
I don't want you to starve.
The TFR only goes up to 12,000. I just wanted to see what this would do in terms of area. I gotta crack this open. I'm just fogging this up.
Mavis, go lay down.
I'm just gonna crack it just a little bit. So it's 27 degrees outside. My thinking is to go down the high units when I get to the end, see what's next. Do I go play up in Wyoming a little bit? Do I go down to Green River area? Let's just see how it works. I can really feel the difference of not having water ballast. It really does.
What are you doing?
It feels slower. Yeah, I'm gonna have to crack the window. Sorry about that.
so beautiful.
Mire. Are you hunky dory?
Let's talk about the high winds a little bit. I've been told it's one of the largest, if not the largest, east to west mountain chains in the U.S. And one of the things that's fascinating about it is just how wide it is. So, I think the tallest peak is somewhere in the 13.5 to 14.5 range of altitude. And so, that seems really high, but if you're that low, you're at mountain tops, and it's so wide of a range that you may have a hard time getting out to a place where there could be farmers fields or someplace to land. So this is a place where
it's mine, I guess.
Yeah, I say. So as you can see, I've dropped a couple, 15 feet, and
I was thinking that, that Sarah come for 7 years straight. It's like it was normal to talk to people. Anybody. 7 years straight, not for a split second. They were 7 years straight. And then I came out here and I can't talk to that guy because it's my boyfriend. Almost. Oh, that one? No. That one's my pen. That one's my phone. That one's my fiance. That one's my ex.
Right now is 107 knots.
Well, maybe we're just
that's going to put us right at about 128 miles an hour. Something like that. So just looking at these clouds, this cloud right here doesn't look all that great because it doesn't have all that flat on the bottom. Speaking of flat bottoms, well, there's an amazing one is that one over there, but that's not on my course line. Well, I could be wrong though. I made that turn to the right just to prove that I know how to turn to the right. I got way too used to turning left in the competition.
I'm done talking for today. How's that? Okay.
I hope so.
It gets cold quick with 31-degree air blowing on you.
I'm gonna get some hot buns.
You're in a restricted area.
Oh my god,
Looks like there's a fire.
Do not have authorization.
Yeah, there's multiple, so that must be where that fire was. Where that TFR is, so. Yeah, I need to be. I'm not going to go over that far, but, it'd be nice to stay at level 12, both for staying high and then also being well clear of the TFR. Alright, so I'm now getting to this one. I'm going to stop and actually take up, climb 2,500 feet underneath this file. This one's good. Just wait until it's really good.
You guys lay down. You guys better lay down before I get really pissed.
It's a little bit smoky. I think there's fires to the west of us. So you can see it wasn't in that direction, so now I'm going to go straight, do a 270. And here we go. Still trying to feel exactly where this lift is. Feel stronger this way, so I'll wait a few seconds. Now I'll turn into it. You know, the Nationals was, it's so good racing with other good pilots because it shows you what, you know, your strengths are and their weaknesses. I think one of my strengths is, you know, once I get into a thermal with the other guys, they're not leaving me in the dust. But I think one of my weaknesses is that I get too content with thermals that are okay, but not amazing. So, like, for example, continuing to circle in that instead of trying to look for it much better. Go ahead. You know, let me do a go to Kings Peak and I'll tell you my distance. Hold on. 23 miles from Heber. I'm heading straight towards Kings Peak. East, straight towards Kings Peak.
So shit. When Eddie,
What?
When Eddie and first it was Eddie and Ken. Remember they lurk in the bushes. It took them like 3 years to get it through their head. Out of here, stop lurking. We don't beat the game.
Alright.
They don't do that.
Stop messing around.
Let's see.
I've been really sloppy in this thermal.
How do I exercise?
And focusing on that, but this is a good thermal. I just need to center it.
That's when I started ranting on social media. That's where it all began. When Eddie would be lurking in the bushes. I'm trying to play the blame game, but that's where it all started. I used to hate social media with a passion. Why your tongue sticking out like a snake? See what I'm talking about? These nasty whores. Would have stuff. Anyways,
headed towards turn point number 46 on the Nephi turn point.
What?
Who's
What are you guys doing in there?
Bandit? Pero mira. Pero mira.
Go lay down.
Stupid bitch. What? What's so funny, man? What? Why you guys aggravated? Who's in trouble right now? It's because, look, 3 years and took Kevin and Eddie. They're cool.
What?
Eddie and Kevin are normal now, like human beings, but back in the day, they acted the same way, like knuckleheads. They're hiding in the bushes and all that, and saying all these weird things. They act normal now, like they don't do that no more. It took 3 years to get them to comply, you know, just by ranting and raising your voice. Thank God they act normal now. That's how I embarked on social media. And that started. I got rid of them and then was fucking whores. Nasty, retarded whores. Horses. Disgusting. No, you already ate. Pero, God help me, Lord. Well, I mean, seriously, I hated social media so bad, dude. The worst thing that could happen to me. I know. The worst thing. Bunch of people that just don't love life. They just hate people and they hate dogs. They hate, all kinds of things. They're a bunch of haters on the loose.